Hello and welcome. I'm Gian, the founder and CEO of TLC Lions, and today I'm in conversation with Amanda Clack, partner and international regional CEO of HKA, one of the world's leading consultancies in risk mitigation and dispute resolution. We're talking about all things human companies because human companies outperform. Amanda, great to have you. How are you today?
Absolutely brilliant. And it's so nice to see you, Gian, because, you're everywhere at the moment. And I feel so privileged to have this chance to have a little chat. And I love your lounge.
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it?
It's
Cozy
cozy.
vibes. That's
Yeah,
what we
yeah, yeah.
like. And speaking of cozy and energy and the way we make people feel, you know that we at TLC Lions believe in human workplaces because they ultimately outperform. And getting to know you over the years, I know you're a human first leader yourself, Amanda. But when we look within a company, what do you think that is, a human first culture? What does it mean?
I think it's all about people. And when you're in a professional services business like we are, you have to put people at the heart of everything that you do. So having that human centric culture is actually key. When you haven't got a business if you haven't got really great people within your business. And we're super lucky at HKA that we have just amazing people. They're literally at the top of their game. So they're intellectually and professionally really, really smart, but they're actually really nice people. And I think nice is an undervalued word quite often because it really brings culture to life. And I think, at the end of the day, that's what you ultimately you need to have a successful business. If you aren't human centric, you kind of have to ask yourself, what's the point? Because otherwise it just becomes a mechanic process. And when you're doing the sorts of work that we do, which, as you said, is around sort of disputes, expert witness, and risk, it's really kind of intense work. So you have to make the environment. And I've always believed this as a leader. If you create the right environment for people, they'll thrive and they'll do their best work. So for me, that's incredibly
Mm.
important.
I'm with you, and we speak about this a lot about, well, what is it to be human? Because we can throw this word around, but I'm with you. We often say it's a mindset where performance is a byproduct.
Mm.
You create the right environment as you clearly do at HK, and people will perform for you. But behind being human, I think something that's important is around connection. And
Yep.
you shared there, you obviously work in a variety of situations, quite complex at times. How do you build people or your teams who can connect with your customers, connect with each other? And does connection drive performance for you?
So it's interesting because I kind of almost call that our secret sauce,
Mm.
and I might not use the word connection, but we certainly use the word collaboration. And we're a business, so I run the international region, which basically is everything apart from the Americas. And we work very closely with our American colleagues, but for me, it's about EMEA and APAC, and we have to know what we do around the globe. And if you're also client-centric organization, it's about how do you put your clients at the heart of everything that you do as well. And if you're doing that truly, you want to bring the best of HKA or your organization to those clients. So that connectivity is massively important because then you're literally joining the dots and bringing the best people from your organization to face into the client to
Mm.
deliver the best that you can possibly do. But I think also coming back to connection in its purest sense, for me, that's also about networks. And I think for sort of some of the people that might be listening to this, I think it's never too early to build your networks. I mean, we have known each other for a long while, and we can't quite pinpoint quite where we met, but we just know we did. And when we met, we had that connection right from day one. And look at the journey that you've been on, and look at the journey that I've been on in that time. But actually, we keep in touch. And I think you build your networks and that connection from within your organization and outside of it, because you never know when you're going to need those connections. And I know TLC Lions talks a lot about support and kind of empowering people to tell stories and to bring that into the workplace, which I think's amazing. But you wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for the connections that you have. And connections also help you in the good times and the bad times. And you need those connections to help
Mm.
get you through. So I think, having that connectivity at a human centric level is really important, and never lose that. And it's never too early to build those connections. But then having it at a business level, it actually makes the organization more effective in their delivery to
Mm.
clients.
And looking at the organization, and clearly I get the importance of connection for you. If people don't know too much about HK, tell us a little bit more. What do you do and what makes you genuinely different, would you say?
Basically, we provide expert services, dispute resolution, litigation advice, risk management, and then also strategic advisory services to clients that are facing into really complex situations and contractual issues where they want advice that's going to be clear, it's going to be authentic, it's going to be independent, and it's going to be very real. So we always talk about decoding complexity. So the situations that clients are typically looking at are very complex situations, and what they need is an organisation or people that can really help them and support them in sort of breaking through on that. And we're really proud because we have. We're ranked amongst the top expert firms around the world, including the GAR 100, which is Expert Witness Power Index. And that's really important to have that recognition externally as well as within your organisation. But to your sort of like your last point in your question, it's really interesting because it's what clients tell me that's unique about what we
Mhm.
do. So, we do all of the right things in terms of that, the technical and professional advice and, kind of real quality of service. But actually, it's the human aspects and it's the connectivity that we have and we bring. So, if you're multidisciplinary, what if we can look at a problem and solve from many different angles and think about it. Again, it's back to that point about really giving your client the best possible service and outcome. And that's what we're really about. And I think that's what differentiates us as an
Mm.
organization.
And I can imagine that yourself looking after everything international and the leadership team, they really understand the importance of it. But looking at creating a culture of this connectivity of a human first mindset, client centric, how do you cascade that message across everybody in the firm?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So we have something called International Connect,
Okay.
and that happens. Obviously, so with the geographical spread that I'm looking after, that's quite a challenge. So we have 24 offices in 17 countries.
Wow.
So that's lots of different time zones. And there's a little window where it doesn't quite work, which is through November, December, January, and February. And that feels really sort of like difficult because actually you're then, if you had a meeting, you would be putting one or other of the colleagues out in terms of time zones. So we try and work it that it works for everybody. But what's really important is having international connect. And we've just had one actually last week, and it was so lovely to see all of the faces on the screen and people coming together and telling their stories about the work that they're doing or the support that we're doing out in the community. Our community outreach programs like phenomenal, and people love to hear those stories. I mean, TLC is all about stories. So, hearing those stories and celebrating successes as well is really important. But it kind of comes back to culture. And I think when you have that spread, you can't just have culture as a poster on a wall. It has to be felt within an
Hmm.
organization. And for me, when I took on the international region last year, it was all about actually one, getting to know the people, and it's a privilege, this role. So, getting out, meeting people, understanding what they want from the organisation. Then it's about sort of setting the tone from the top in terms of the leadership culture that we have within our organisation. And, our CEO globally, reflects that. And then we reflect it sort of within the two regions, so the Americas and also the international region. Um, and then through my own leadership team, and then cascading it right the way down through the organisation. So if you're doing all of that, and then basically you're really sort of like driving a performance-based culture where people understand where they fit. So we've actually just done, we've rolled out our strategy for the international region, which is basically around accelerating collaborative growth in our chosen markets. That's the kind of like the very easy strap line. But what we want is everybody to understand that in a deeper context through our service lines, through our sub-regions, and then what it means for them and how they can build their careers within the organisation.
Yeah. Love that. But it is that, as you say, simple messaging so everybody knows it and cascading it as
Yeah.
well. And it's interesting because over the years now, I mean, we've worked with 300 organizations, and I was sharing it this
Wow.
morning. That's been pretty wild, but it's allowed us to kind of lift the lid on these companies. We've seen actually what does a human system, a human company look like, and we've now boiled it down to 4 areas.
Right.
And it's the 4 C's, we call them. And one is the capabilities, investing in the right skills,
Yeah.
the right culture, as you say, values not being laminated, but truly lived. Then it's looking at connection, the stories that we tell with
Yeah.
clients, and then it's change. And change for us is how we go from change ready to change seeking. How people, I talk about agility as the new stability. We don't have all the answers. And I guess I look at that 4th C for you at HKA. How do you operate in an environment that is changing so quickly for yourselves, for your clients? How do you try and stay ahead of the curve?
And we have to, I think, is the key to it. And I think for all of our clients, your clients, my clients, everybody's clients, the one thing that is certain is that change is with us, and the pace of change, I think, is just increasing all the time. But you also, you only have to see Artemis and the picture of the world and just how small it is. And we have to work together on all of this, and we have to learn fast, and we have to do the right thing as we go through all of that. So I think, change for our clients is geopolitical change, it's economic change, it's, the digital transformation that's happening around us. Everything's kind of like happening at this pace, and it's happening all at once. And what we have to do as an organisation is help our clients through that process and make sure that we're at the forefront. Within the organisation, it's really about thinking around, what we do around data, digital, of course, AI is with us, but then also about how we develop our people to meet the change of the future. Because if you're a human-centric organisation, you don't want people to stay static with the knowledge that they have today. You have to build them for the future, and you have to think differently about things. And we're doing that all the time as well. So that's about investment in kind of like the infrastructure that we need to do our job most effectively. And then also it's about how do we build those careers, and how do we get the development of our people so that they're ready to absorb it into the organisation. But I love your 4 Cs, by the way. I think that's fabulous. I might steal those.
Have them. But, it's so important. I was just reading an article that Jane Fraser, the CEO of Citibank, did with McKinsey, and she said that they're seeing about 50% of organizations are future looking forward, the skills that we need for tomorrow, but the other 50% are still trying to just protect yesterday.
Yeah.
And I say to everybody even watching, where are you in your organization? Are they forward thinking? Like clearly you are. But Amanda, I just want to say, mindful of the time, a huge thank you for today. You're clearly a wonderful company to work with, to work for, and they have a human leader at the helm of it. So any final words before we wrap up from you?
Just thank you. And I think, it is really important. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in the organisation. I think you have to believe in it, and you have to make a difference. We all have, I think, a huge responsibility as a leader. Leadership's a privilege, and you have to make sure that you kind of take the responsibility that goes with that. And that's about building an organisation in which you'd want to work. And I think if you've got that, then that's a great future. But lovely to see you, Gian, and thank you for having me.
Of course, great to have you on. Thanks so much, Amanda. What a great conversation. And if this resonated with you and you want to find out how human your company really is, well, at TLC Lions, we've built the Human Company Scorecard. To find out more, go to tlclions.com and find out your score in less than 5 minutes. Look forward to seeing you next time.